preseason football last night. I didn't watch, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't watch preseason football. Carolina wasn't playing, so I just have like a little interest in kind of watching hey, this guy's playing. Cool. That's cool. Good for him. He did well. I hope the fifth string running back, had the great stat line of 10 rushes for 27 yards. Actually, I think Chestnut had like 40, 50 yards last night, but heard Malik Willis looked all right, inconsistent at times, a little raw, but it's looking I think it's looking pretty positive from what I'm hearing. The highlights I did see, this is expected, right?
Yeah, Malik Willis did have a growing pain game, I guess you could say. Flashes of brilliance, but still the learning curve's there.
And I did hear that Kenny Golladay was just gonna Kenny Golladay, and
yeah, we won't talk about that.
You give that guy a lot of money. He doesn't care. He doesn't like football. Who cares? He'll try sometime later. So, anyways, welcome on in to the Second and Short podcast here on the Mosaic MC platform, Mosaic Media Communications. I am your host, Tyler Louder. If you're listening here on Spotify, any Audacity, anywhere, be sure to like this our page and follow along and see all of our other value episodes. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe as well. With me, as always, is our Mosaic MC East representative, Jason Teasley. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Glad that we now have football every week through February, so that's always a plus. Now, for my mental health, that's not always a great thing because being in so many leagues kind of becomes frantic, but I adapt well in the fantasy football chaos.
Yeah, and I'm in a handful of leagues as well, and I think we're both double digits. I know you clearly are closer to triple digits, I think, maybe, I don't know. But I have a pretty strict rule that if I don't bring home any championships in a year, I have to cut out a league. That is the rule I push on myself, so it provides me to push forward, which is why I don't do rebuilds very often. I'm in one right now, which we'll kind of talk about that little trade I did about a month ago, right around our rookie draft. I traded away Mike Williams and Sam Darnold. It's a 2-quarterback league, PPR, and I'm in a major rebuild. I have no reason to win this year. I don't have to worry about anything. I have 5 first-round picks in 23, 5 second-round picks in 23. And when I sent away Mike Williams and Sam Darnold, I got DJ Moore. I got a little bit younger, little homer player for me, but it made sense for a rebuild. And then the other day, somebody goes, well, hey, give me Jahan Dotson and I'll give you Mike Williams back. And I was like, okay, fine. Now I get it. Jahan Dotson could turn into Mike Williams. He could also not. And he was my pick 2.06 and I never used him. So essentially I got to keep Mike Williams. I traded 2.06 and Sam Darnold for DJ Moore. And I like to think that's a win.
Yeah, that's a tremendous win, especially the way we hype up DJ Moore and
Mike Williams.
With him getting the upgraded quarterback, I see that as a huge win for you. Mm-hmm. And then being able to get Mike Williams back, who we're all the time on the hype train for. So yeah, that's a pretty solid spin you did.
I'm very happy with it, and it's kind of going to push my rebuild a little forward. I still lack running backs, but that's exactly what my 2023 draft class is for, is to give me Robinson and all those running backs. But this long intro is now needed to be cut down. So if you're still here with us, we appreciate. Thank you. Follow along. We're going to be on all of our social media as well. We're talking ADP values. This is part 3 of our ADP value series for all of you guys that are doing some redraft leagues in the month of August. It's redraft season. If you missed our first 2 episodes, we talked about values 1 through 50, 50 through 100, and today values 101 through 150. These are players that are right now getting drafted in single quarterback PPR standards between ranges pick 101 to 150. So let's go ahead and get into it. So our first value that we see here today is running back getting drafted with an ADP of 111. He's getting drafted as a running back 40 currently. You can get him at pick 10.03 roughly. And that is running back James Cook for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, James Cook is definitely a value here because if you look at last year, when Buffalo featured Singletary, he was in those last 6 games, he was in running back 3 range. Similar size as Cook. Cook has a lot better hands and a little bit of knowledge that you're going to drop. day two running backs always perform better. It's a
Mhm.
55. They're finishing in the top 36 in fantasy 55% of the time.
Since
With this,
2013.
yeah, with the better Buffalo Bills offense, with the depth, and with the fact that Cook can catch a lot better than Singletary, and you know my beloved Zach Moss, that value plummeted.
Mhm.
You're going to see him vastly go up and finish in the running back 30 range. And I think that's more of his floor than his ceiling. But we're putting him at running back 30. James Cook is definitely going to be somebody that you want to add, get the value, and be able to stash. So when he does break out, you're there to reap the benefits.
Yeah, if you understand, so a few things. So James Cook's value here, the reason why we think he's going to be such a big value is because Buffalo Bills have such a great offense, right? They're going to score a lot of points. When they score a lot of points, they're going to be winning a lot of games. Maybe they'll be running the ball. Now, there is an issue of like, well, Singletary's still there. Zach Moss might still goal line work. Josh Allen might still goal line work from James Cook. But I think there's three ways to look at this. Okay, let's look at the dynasty aspect of it. If you're getting him at pick like 1-9 to 112, you're getting a fantastic range if you need a running back and you were a winning team last year making the playoffs. Receivers so deep, you could get that running back there and then still get a decent receiver in the second round, or just get your receivers, through a different trading element of receivers. I just told you some deals that I did. Receivers are pretty easy to acquire, I think so, versus running backs. If you're in a redraft league, you're going to be getting him around the 10th round is where he's going. We think you should be taking him as high as the back four of the 8th round all the way through the 9th. If you do this, getting an RB3, you can stack in the first 5 picks. You can get 2 running backs and then deal with receiver, quarterback, and running back the other 6 rounds, and then get your RB3 in round 9 and feel pretty good about yourself. Now, if you're in a keeper league, you can snag this guy up now in the round 9. And I think that Moss is going to be pushed out. I think with James Cook doing really well this year, and Singletary's role will kind of go down. Then I think if you're in a keeper league next year, you're going to get a starting running back with top 24 potential in the 9th round. So all aspects, I think he provides great value. And anybody that we're projecting to jump 10 spots, I mean, he should be drafting in the 8th round, and you can get him in the 9th or 10th, and that's a steal. Now let's move on to our next guy. So ADP of 115. This wide receiver is going as wide receiver 48 currently. You can get him a little bit later than James Cook, and that is in pick 10.07. And we project him to be wide receiver 40 this year. Small jump. That is wide receiver Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, Toney is, of course, a homer pick for me. He's really a gadget player, and he will definitely exceed this because New York doesn't have a legit wide receiver one. We discussed this. They went out and got a nice rookie wide receiver to complement Toney, but Toney is Tony's one of these players that is a gadget player. You could put him anywhere on the field, and the ball lands in his hand. He can make plays. Mm-hmm. That's what this is based on. The Giants need a breath of fresh air. They can't constantly lean on Barkley. Teams will pick up on it. They need somebody to step up. They've got talent at the wide receiver position, but they need to flourish. And Toney is the person that I think that you could put in the slot, on the outside, line up in the backfield, run gadget plays like reverses and everything. Getting the ball in his hand is what is going to be key. And once the ball is in his hand, you can step back and watch the electricity just flourish. Because in open field, he's shifty, he's quick, and he can make people miss. But he's also got good hands. He's got good body separation on routes. So getting him here when you should be getting him about a full round and a half later is going to be key to your fantasy football legacy.
Yeah, bouncing off of just who we talked about previously, James Cook, you can get him. If you can pull him at the end of the 8th round, then you come around that turn, you take Toney at the beginning of the 9th. I think you're getting him around early. that's going to be a value. Let's say you're drafting at the 6th spot, which is a 6-7 is like a death spot for most redrafters. This year is what everybody says. I think every draft pick is good because you only can pick who comes to you anyways. So there's always value everywhere. But if you take him, you're at 9-6 or 9-7, I guess, and whatever, instead of waiting for him to come back around the middle of the 10th, where his ADP is, you take him around earlier because he shouldn't be going that late. We think he's going to have an 8-spot jump, which wide receiver 40 should be getting drafted at the back end of the 8th, early of the 9th as well. And so getting him in the 10th round, if you're at 10-1, perfect. Kadarius Toney, here's the thing. They drafted Wan'Dale Robinson in the 2nd. I don't think that's really an issue for Toney. I think what they're doing is Kenny Golladay can't remain healthy. They brought in Colin Johnson, who I like from Jacksonville. I thought he played really well in a short time there, but still, he's a lower guy. Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton. That's who's in trouble here with Wan'Dale Robinson. Playing in the slot, Shepard's role is going to be getting taken. Slayton isn't going to be able to play there, and Toney and Golladay are better receivers than Slayton. So really, I think those two guys that used to be the starters for this team, that's who's affected by Robinson coming in. Toney has this ability with Kenny Golladay, who doesn't like football and who a lot of people think is a great value as well. Tony's going to come in. He's going to be the number 1 receiver here. Saquon Barkley being healthy is a fantastic thing for this improved offensive line. Daniel Jones, we think, is still a fantasy darling out there that people think he's going to take this next step because he's a Josh Allen light, some people said. And he's got that rushing ability, but with an upgraded offensive line, Barkley coming back healthy, and I think Robinson taking over that slot, more trusting than the injured Shepard, is going to provide Toney with some fantastic one-on-one looks. And I think you get the ball in open space to him, he is going to destroy some defenses with how quick he is. And a guy that was a surprise first-round pick a year ago in the NFL draft, I think is going to, in year 2, kind of step up. And we do see receivers take that step up. It is a slow, but it is a trajectory up from years 1, 2, and 3 for receivers. And if anything, he's going to be locked and loaded as the number 1, 100% going into 2022 as well. I think for dynasty standards, he's a good wide receiver 4 to have. I think for keeper leagues, he's a great starting receiver to have in the 9th round. In redrafts, I think he's going to provide lots of value week to week, as long as he can stay healthy.
Yeah, and just going to throw this out there because this is a stat that I came across that blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Out of, if you say names like Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Antonio Brown, and Toney, they finish with a 29% target rate.
Mm-hmm.
That's the upside he has. When you think of Toney, you don't think about these other elite players that you see in fantasy football, but he's getting the same target rate as them. So you're going to see that production be met, and then you're going to see the benefits.
Yeah, and I think so as well. And when we look at what can happen with this team, they only can get better. They only can move up. So let's go ahead and move on to our next guy. Now we're going to shift and we're going to talk. We didn't do this positionally on purpose, but going with an ADP of 126, tight end 13 currently, you can get him at pick 11-6. We project him to be tight end 10 this year. That is tight end Cole Kmet with the Chicago Bears. Last year, he finished as tight end 21 as a rookie. But let's talk about what happened there. 93 targets, not bad. 60 receptions, not bad. 612 yards, not bad. 0 touchdowns. What in the... I don't understand. You're a tight end. You know, there's a rookie. Yeah. There's a rookie quarterback. We always say that that's every young quarterback's best friend is their tight end. Here's what happened. Jimmy Graham got in the way, took 3 touchdowns. You give those 3 touchdowns to Cole Kmet, he jumps into the top 16, top 15 of tight ends as a rookie. Who does he have to compete with this year? Darnell Mooney. Okay, well, that's some stiff competition. Yes, David Montgomery's going to catch passes. But after that, it's him versus Byron Pringle, Bonimus St. Brown, N'Keal Harry, Velus Jones, who's like 38 years old, and Dante Pettis. All he's got to do is catch 4 touchdowns, and he's going to propel himself in the range of a tight end 1. And I think his targets are going to go up because Jimmy Graham's no longer there. And granted, Jimmy Graham, yes, he only had 14 receptions last year, but he was still out there on the field when we don't have Kmet out there. And Kmet's a well-rounded tight end. So with the lack of target competition, with the chemistry building up with Fields, with touchdowns inevitably happening, I think he's going to take a huge step up from finishing 21st last year to being a top 10 tight end for you. And going in the 11th round, he should be going at the back end of the 8th round. All three of these guys are talking about should be going at the back end of the 8th. And you're getting him later. I think a 30 pick swap is fantastic value for Cole Kmet.
Yeah, and Kmet is also a big body, a big red zone target. He can shield players, got solid hands. He blocks too, so being on the field blocking is going to gain favor from your quarterback. So you're going to see some rewards of that. So I see definitely the touchdowns going up, yardage going up slightly, but the touchdown ratio is definitely going to take a leap. And like I said, we put him in the tight end 10 range. That's only like 4 or 5 touchdowns. If he catches those 4 or 5 touchdowns, you say probably about another 250 yards. That's a solid tight end season, and can be a plug and play tight end for you week in and week out.
Yeah, and I think that easily he can hit 100 targets, 65 receptions, 720 yards, and then 4 touchdowns. Personally, is what I think he can hit. And when we look at everything, let's do some quick maths right now. 65 points plus 72 points plus 24 points is going to put us at 161 total fantasy points right now. That's a rough draft right there, which would have put him in the range of finishing where Dawson Knox kind of finished, which would be tight end 10. And all I'm saying is he gets 7 more targets, 5 more catches, 100 more yards on those 5 more catches, and 4 more touchdowns. So I think it's doable, especially with the lack of competition there and everything, the chemistry built up with Fields. I think the Bears are not going to be very good in 2022, which is a positive because if you're losing, I don't care if it's garbage points count as points. And if you don't prepare your team with garbage point players, you're going to be in trouble. I mean, Jared Goff last year, sidebar, would have finished as like a top 16 quarterback had he played all 17 games. It's just saying that garbage points matter. You should take them into account. And Cole Kmet this year will finish as a top 10 tight end. Now, let's talk about our final person of the episode. So far in review for ADP's 101 through 150 here with single quarterback PPR standards, we think James Cook is going to provide great value at 111, Kadarius Toney at 115, Cole Kmet at 126. Kind of playing it safe here. Let's drop all the way down. Let's talk about ADP 150. So a wide receiver getting drafted at 150 as wide receiver 58, which is good for pick 12.06. We project that he will finish as a wide receiver 40 this year, and that is Jacoby Myers, the New England Patriots. Last year, he was wide receiver 30. He played all 17 games, so his points per game are only 11. And I get that aspect. We talked about this pre-show. Yes, points per game matter, but also playing 17 games and always being available, that also matters. He had 83 receptions, 126 targets, 866 yards, and only 2 touchdowns. Developed a relationship with Mac Jones more. They bring in Devontae Parker. James White, who wasn't always there, is retiring. I think that Jacoby Myers is locked in as the number 1. We do like Kendrick Bourne there, mind you, deep sleeper. But I mean, 126 targets, getting that many targets, I don't see how he couldn't finish again in the top 40.
Yeah, and he's one of these players that I loved because I picked him up on the waiver wire, and he was a streaming wide receiver for me. And Myers is one of these players that he's on the field, he's consistent, he's got that repertoire with Jones. He was Jones's favorite target last year. Devontae Parker, everybody is making him the darling in New England, but you got to think he's coming in, running a new offense, getting used to Mac Jones's cadences and stuff, where Myers already has the inside track on. So, and that's a trusted receiver from his rookie year. So he's going to be looking for him more times than he will be for Parker. But Myers is one of these sneaky value players that I absolutely love. Like I said, I got him on the waiver wire across every one of my leagues last year for next to nothing. I think I spent maybe a total of $8 fab on him across all my leagues. So I got him I got him free in most leagues. But this is a player that you can grab really late. Like I said, if you got him as a keeper, you got a multiple keeper, and you keep like they've got round restrictions. This is a player that you could get production out of super late and build around him with superstars.
Yeah, and I think he's a great person to have in your flex spot for leagues that play through receivers and a flex. I mean, as your wide receiver 4, I think that you could snag him in the late 10th to early 11th round, get him 15 picks early and 15 to 20 picks early. And I think that's a good thing to do. And as your wide receiver 4, I mean, like I said, he finished as a wide receiver 3 last year. We're projecting him as a wide receiver 4 this year because obviously injuries for a lot of players. We think guys like Mike Thomas are going to come back and they're going to play. We think some rookies like Drake London are going to step up as well. So, I mean, there are other things, of players in his way. And so projecting him sitting here at, I'm going to change this real quick. It's projection of wide receiver 39. I apologize. And I'll have to edit that and fix that. Oh, that's annoying. Frustrating. I didn't realize we did that. We put Tony and Myers both wide receiver 40. Projecting him at wide receiver 39 this year. So here's some things on him. He was top 12 in target share last year with 23% target share league-wide from the Patriots. He ran around on 92% of dropbacks for the Patriots, which was tied for sixth highest in the NFL. The only problem here is that he doesn't score enough touchdowns, and that's it. That's really it. I mean, if he just scored more touchdowns, we're looking at a guy that is a fringe level wide receiver 2 that you're getting at the equivalent of a wide receiver 5, like, right? Because 58, right? We're talking about he's getting back end of wide receiver 5. So we're talking that you would have 3 starters, and then he'd be your second receiver on the bench. Yet he's going to perform better than 2 of your starters, or our starter and the other guy on the bench. I think he has great value. I think the Patriots are not going to be a great team in 2022. Little sneak spoiler here. I think they're going to be fringe, potentially worst team in their division. I don't think that they've developed enough on all aspects of the ball, and I don't really believe in Mac Jones to take another step. But that doesn't mean that he's not going to take a step forward in getting the ball to Jacoby Myers, which he will do a lot in 2022.
But you also got to think this. We always preach on it, garbage time points. With them having a schedule as they do, there's going to be a lot of times they're going to be playing from behind. Mm-hmm. And you got to count on those garbage time points. I hate when people knock on garbage points. Garbage points is what propelled Amon St. Brown up to being a fantasy darling last year.
He's a wide receiver. He was the wide receiver 2 in the final 6 weeks of the season behind Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, and people just kind of negate that and just overlook that. When a team is throwing a lot, especially with the wide receivers, take those points because you're going to be looking for a lot of defenses playing a softer coverage. They're not going to be as after the ball, so you're going to see a lot of receptions, a lot of dink and dunk pickup yards. Those count. And I don't know how many times I've won off of garbage points more than breakout games from players.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, and he had a game last year where he didn't see anything against Buffalo, and that was the game that they only threw 3 attempts anyway. So, I mean, realistically, if that game doesn't happen, let's just say that's a regular weather game. I mean, he was averaging anywhere from 6 to 8 attempts. We're talking him breaking into the 135 attempts in a season, which is insane for a guy that nobody's really talking about. He's great size, 6'2", 200 pounds. He's led the Patriots in targets 2 years in a row. So either these guys are going to make up for your bad picks in the beginning, or they're going to bust out and it doesn't matter because your top picks are carrying you. Follow us on all social medias, like this video, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.